Hello, Sing Space. I'm here with Christie today to talk about a new belting course that is starting in just a few days. So we've had a lot of questions about belting that we're going to be covering today in just a minute, including why many of us practice but don't see the results that we crave. I have been there many times. Which troublesome songs and notes are causing the most fear at the moment? And again, why is this happening? And we're also going to be talking about why it's so important for us to move out of our comfort zone in order to see real growth, which is scary but exciting. So Christie, I think most of our gang know you as one of our senior Sing Space coaches, that you are have much expertise around this topic, and that your research has been focused on helping people find their inner belt, moving from Anna to Elsa, as we've called it. And we've been talking for about a year now about how do we put this into a structure that is going to really make a difference to people, something that we can really make a promise that they'll see change and really feel, morally comfortable making these kind of promises. How can we really help this happen? I'm really excited and proud by what's I've seen you create and what's going to be happening. So how are you today? I like the fact we're in the same virtual space.
I know, I love it. Oh, I'm so excited, and I'm so excited to start this course because I just think there's so much opportunity to help people find that stability and find that healthy freedom in their belt. So I'm really excited to get started.
Yeah, we're excited as well. Why do you think people are so afraid of it can cause so much fear for so many people, that idea of belting?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because I think I am not a natural belter. I always tell my students I'm a converted opera singer. And so I actually never learned to belt until I had vocal nodules myself while I was professional on the road, performing in opera. And I had to get speech therapy, and the speech therapy was going really well. And at the end of my sessions, my speech therapist said, "Hey, let me show you a little trick." And she taught me how to belt in one session. And I just remember thinking, is that it? Is that it? And all of a sudden, I was this random opera singer who could belt a D. Because once I had a few tips and tricks, it was just so easy. But the fear came from not associating it with a singing sound. To me, it didn't fall into the bucket of my singing sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I thought I was the only one. I just thought I was kind of weird and on the fringe of that. But the more I taught, the more I realized that that is probably the most common thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as a belting practitioner, I think 90% of what I do is giving people permission to do what they do at the dinner table, to their children, across the park, to their friends, in a song. It's just giving people permission. So once you get people started with a few tips and tricks, actually what you typically hear is that it? Really? But I do this all the time. I just don't do it for an audition. Does that make sense?
It really does, and it's that permission thing, isn't it? I was doing choir last night, and we were working on I Dreamed a Dream, and we weren't finding the right kind of full Broadway belting tone, that kind of emotive connection that you need on the song, because everyone was trying to sound a certain way. And then when everyone did it on just a no, a kind of a pained no, suddenly the room just exploded with sound, and they sounded incredible. But you're right, it was that permission. They were like, what is that easy to do that? But I wasn't singing, I wasn't doing anything, I was just And so I think that what we talked about before with this course is it's going to be that kind of feedback of like, are you sure it feels good, but like, am I okay? Like, do I have permission now to do this? So why do you think, so one of the things we see the most is that when people people do actually work their asses off on belting and will spend hours at home trying to do it. And I've been there and I've done the same phrase over and over again, like rewind 10, 15 years. There was an E flat in a song that I was doing, and the rest of the whole show was easy, but there was this one E flat. Probably
Oh,
it was
yeah.
probably no more than a crotchet either. It was just one note, but it.
Oh, yes, the crotchet defines your career.
It would define, like, it depends whether you'd go home from the show on cloud 9, or like you'd run out with your hood up and go home and cry in bed. I mean, I was particularly neurotic. But practice was really hard for me because I was like, right, I know I'm going to work, and if I work hard, I'll get this note. So I would go and I would try and I would try and I would work and I would work all for hours and hours. And yeah, it didn't get there. This was before I started coaching. I didn't know my own voice. I really didn't know. So why do you think it is that so much of practice doesn't, we've talked about why doesn't it work for people, and what's going to be different about the next 8 weeks about how we practice together?
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly incisive question. And I think it really gets at the heart of how you can teach belting efficiently. And because like you, one of the things I discovered is that a lot of the notes that I could tell composers had set specifically with specific vowels to help singers were actually horrible vowels for me. And so I kept asking myself, well, obviously, I know Lin-Manuel Miranda's. He's a great composer, but he's setting these belting notes on vowels that are the exact wrong vowel for me. And what occurred to me from teaching more and more singers from more and more different countries and different places is that belting is really unique to what your personal setup is. Your favorite vowel may be my worst vowel, right? And it kind of goes back to the first point about giving yourself permission. And you have to give yourself permission to be who you are. So your accent, your family makeup, right? How energetic or, quiet or loud your family is. For example, my husband is Italian American. So he comes downstairs and he belts, good morning, like that's his speaking voice. And so for him, belting is going to be a different experience than it is for someone like me, or for someone from a very quiet, very, well-mannered family where shouting is a real threat and it's perceived as very aggressive. So a lot of the course is going to be exploring different experiences and allowing people to have their own experience, right? So, you find your favorite vowel, and it's not going to be the same as the person next to you, but that's your vowel. That's where we start. Your experience. Where do you find yourself happy shouting? Where do you find yourself making those calls? This is going to be so different from where I find it, and I can share my experiences, but at the same time, my main priority in the course is giving people that safe space to create their own experience and find their own version of healthy belting, right?
Gosh, that's an amazing answer. It's a really amazing answer. I was going to, it's a combination of, the vowels and consonants you're presented with in the song, and then your own upbringing and physiology and history and personality. But you just summed it up so beautifully that that they're creating that space for people to find that themselves. My notes were, thinking back now, the first one was on a knot, whatever, whether it was the T that was closing it off, or just a really close ot, and I wasn't opening it up. And the other one was on window, which and how are you supposed to ever belt on an but also, as you're saying, it's all of my own stuff coming into that, what was happening there. So I mean, this is really liberating, because I have a feeling that a lot of the time that our practice, when we come back to that, why doesn't practice work? It's because we're listening to the cast recording and we're trying to sound like that.
Yes. I mean, and who knows where the person who recorded that cast recording, may come from a very twangy family in New England, right? So that is how they speak, that is how they sing, right? And that doesn't mean that we can't, whatever our backgrounds are, that doesn't mean that we can't find that same sound or the same feeling, but it's going to be approached from a very different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the things this course is going to do is not focus so much on a prescribed, this is how you do it. So we'll have lots of little practices. And another thing that I'm really passionate about is what I call little and often practice. And I got that from my mentor that I studied with. And the idea is that it's not about going into a practice room for 45 minutes, hacking it out. When it doesn't sound good, you just try a little harder, try a little harder, try a little harder. So with my students, I set a very firm parameter. I say, you set your phone on 10 minutes. You're going to do these 3 exercises. When your phone goes off, walk out of the room, and I don't care how you feel. I don't care if you're feeling amazing and you feel like you want to continue, or you're feeling like your life is over and you're never going to be able to get this. Walk out of the room and do not think about it. You can then walk into the room in the evening of that same day, or in the morning of the next day. Or if you're focusing on getting a roll under your belt, you could walk into the room 3 or 4 times in a day, but for no more than 10 minutes at one time. Do the exercises, look for what your targets are. What are you trying to achieve with the exercises? Walk out of the room. If you do that every day for 2 weeks, you will find a greater stability and a greater understanding of how these different qualities fit together in your voice. Does that make sense?
It really does. So instead of I think the reason that practice is not working is because we're going for the troublesome bit and we're repeating it over and over and over again. You're saying go and do these little and often practice. Don't stress over them. Just do them. Show up. Do it. And when you go back to sing the song at the end of the 8 weeks, or maybe halfway through, hopefully you'll start to see changes as well. It will start to feel different. And I'm definitely going to be attending this. You know, I don't have time to do all the Sing Space courses, but I've scheduled in my Tuesdays. 10:30 till 12, or catch up, I guess. It's all going to be there if people are working daytimes and want to do it in the evening. I think the other thing that's really exciting about this is that we're going to set up these practice rooms between your masterclasses each week. So we've set up practice rooms on a Wednesday evening, a Thursday daytime, and a Sunday. So it's going to be 3 open practice rooms that you can just show up to on those times and meet other people who are doing the course and just check in as well. So I think that kind of comes back to, why do we need to, I think you've answered it, to be honest, why we need to move from our comfort zone to see real growth. I think you've answered it. But is there something you think it really comes down to? I think that kind of answered it into why is belting often so scary?
Yeah, I do think there is an element of belting. Every time I teach a belting class, or when I observe my mentors teaching or other people teaching, there's something primal that comes out of it. And it is a very courageous act. It takes a lot of courage to do it. And then it takes another level of courage to do it in front of people for a long period of time, or in an audition where you know you're being evaluated, because it does unleash something very primal in you. But at the same time, that does have a knock-on effect. And so any belting course has to have this element of just, this is a safe space. Make 100 bad sounds. If they feel okay, carry on. Give yourself the courage. We're all here for you. We're all in the same boat. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And you will find a place where you wake up one day and you go, oh, I had no idea I can do this. Or someone comes to you and goes, oh, you must be a natural belter. And you smile and you say, sure, right? And that's where I want people to be aspiring. I want us to look forward to that and to be brave and to have courage, right? Because that's how you really unleash this in a way that makes sense and is healthy for you.
Yeah. I mean, before we talk about, I'm so excited. Before we talk about how to sign up, can you just tell us about some of the songs that we're going to be looking at? Because I know that I think each week there's going to be a troublesome excerpt of one of the songs that might possibly
Belty
be.
bit. Oh yeah, we're gonna go through the belty bits. Yeah, so we'll go through and actually I'm gonna try to crowdsource as much as possible because I want the people who are participating in the class to get the most value out of it. So folks have already contributed loads of really helpful suggestions. We're going to do everything from typically a golden age belt, what I call golden age belt, so more of like the standard, the gypsy stuff, to Mean Girls belt. How do you find your Mean Girls belt? Just raise your right finger is one of the most troublesome belt passages because it's on an R. You've got that ah vowel, and it just stays there and stays there. So those are some of the passages we're going to explore. We're going to explore some rock and pop passages. Some Katy Perry will be in there, maybe some Aerosmith. So we want to keep it broad. And we want to establish some firm guidelines for how you know it's going to be healthy, but then also give you the freedom to play. So hopefully, yeah, it's going to be very useful for people. And what I'd really like is loads of feedback, loads of comments about how users are experiencing this so that we can create a course that really works for the people who are signed up.
Yeah. I noticed that Meadowlark one came up right at the end. Meadowlark, such a dream all the way through, and then one note.
I know, and I think we're also going to be coining some new words. I think in this class we're going to have a new vernacular. We've got squelt already, so I think some new vocabulary is going to be coming out of this course, and I can't wait.
I can't wait. So this course is going to be, so it's 8-week course, 90 minutes a week, co-working groups or practice rooms 3 times a week, practice strategies, little and often exercises, resources, rep lists, lots of exciting stuff happening. It will be purchasable as a single course. If anyone wants to join the 8-week course for £250, or it's going to be free for SingSpace members. We are asking SingSpacers, we are going to host this course on the new site. So the new site isn't going to be ready until January 23rd. But we are going to host this course on the new site because the new site is so much more advanced and will give you so much more opportunity for interaction. Yeah. So we are going to ask you, it's not going to be through your usual membership. What we're going to need to ask you to do to get this for free is to sign up to the new site. I'm going to email you all. I'm going to email all instructions. It's going to be like a 3-step process, take you about 3 to 5 minutes. Sign up on the new site. Basically, sign up there. There's nothing to pay for 7 days. And in that time, we'll just cancel your old account and set you up a free account. So you can keep accessing the existing site. Everything else is normal, but you're going to be moved over and be our first beta testers for the new website. So if that sounds confusing, you're going to get lots of emails from me in the next 3 or 4 days holding your hand. You were going to get really bored of me emailing you instructions about how to do this, but please action it when you hear it, because you won't be able to access Christie's course on Tuesday if you haven't signed up to the new site, because that's where it's going to be held. So I will keep emailing, and hopefully it's nice and clear and doesn't take you more than a few minutes. Christie, we will see you on Tuesday morning.
Yay!
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
I think that's it. I think I'm just really looking forward to seeing people, and I can't wait for Tuesday.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. To anyone who's watching live or on catch up, you can comment on any of these videos and we'll see your comments. And we will see you